Well, I can't believe we're already here, but the Red Sea 625 G2 Plus is 1 year old. It's been mostly smooth sailing, but it's had some bumps along the way. Let's dive in. Hey Reef Builders, my name is Remy, and welcome back to a much needed update on the Red Sea 625 G2 Plus. From getting it into the basement, filling it up, adding live sand, finding this sweet crab, first fish, getting through ick, and adding coral, I've taken you along for the ride. Well, there's more coral in here now, like a decent amount of coral. The SPS tank that I envisioned is still within reach, but just have to overcome a few more obstacles before it's thriving. I've sent out for Triton ICP, NDOC, and also Aquabiomics. I'm still waiting on the results of all of those, but there might be some clues lying within those tests. There's a decent amount of SPS that are in the tank currently. They're all doing well. They're just kind of stagnant in growth. Without wasting any more time, let's go check out all the coral in this tank. Let's start with the Grandmaster Ghani. I picked this up at Reef Stock Denver from Ward's Aquatics. It's got beautiful coloration, greens and yellows and purples. I really love this Ghani a lot. Here's a funky little pale yellow Ghani. I love the unique coloration of this. I picked this up from Oceanic Gardens, and it's been doing pretty well. This is the oldest Ghani that I have in the tank and by far the biggest. It's nothing to write home about when it comes to colors, but it definitely adds a lot of movement and it's pretty large. Salem actually did a write-up on this particular coral. We saw this on our trip to Vibrant, and this is a Solomon Island Phavites. It's got so many different colors in it: purple, green, red. Definitely a stunner. Can't wait for this thing to grow out more. Here's a really unique coral that I picked up from one of the local reefers here who has a 20-year-old reef tank. It's a unique teal digitata. We went back and forth on this, but we think the growth pattern looks more digitata-like and less like a bird's nest. You see this color commonly in bird's nests, but you don't see it often in digitata. But this thing has puddled out all over the rocks and is gonna get big here quick. Oh, the stratosphere zoanthids. Go get you some of these if you're a zoa person. This is gonna sound crazy, but they're now less than $100 a polyp at most places. So these used to be over $2,000 per polyp. For years, they were this price. Now, for whatever reason, they're super easy to propagate, which drives the price down. Here's an acro. I think this is called tiger's blood or something silly. I just liked it because it's yellow and has magenta polyps. Here's my favorite acro for many reasons, the Walt Disney. You can see here that it's doing what it does best in any tank I've ever had, be green. You can also see all those new coralites on the bottom of this thing. It's about ready to take off and I can't wait. This is a Paragoni Astrea that Tyler picked up for me recently at a show. He texted me and said, "Hey, do you want one of these?" And I immediately said yes. And I'm so happy that I did because it is beautiful. Here's some of Jake's Manila Spy, growing like crazy as it does. Here's a local fish store Blasto find. Really doesn't do it justice on how beautiful this thing is, but it's so vivid and there's greens in there and reds as well. It's one of my favorites. And I know these guys are slow growers, but ever since going to Australia and seeing all the Bauer Bankies, I had to grab some up. This one is from Top Shelf Aquatics. And here's a red and orange one from my local fish store, the Corner Reef. I have so many favorite corals, guys, and I'm sorry, but this is another one. Turbonaria Huronensis. This piece is from ACI. It's nice and chunky. This kind of gives you a good idea of the growth pattern on this. And this one is the same, it's the same species, but it's a grafted version. We have one of these, we have a couple of them in the studio right now, but this one is from Jason Fox, and I got it at Reef Stock Chattanooga. This thing is going to be beautiful when it grows out. This Pavona is also one of the original corals in this tank, and it's doing well. I did a coral feature on this. It's a Moslea. You rarely see these in the hobby and you rarely see them in the wild. So if you ever see them at your local fish store, definitely pick it up. It's one of those corals that not a whole lot of people are going to gravitate towards, but if you're a coral nerd, definitely something to have in your mixed reef. We'll go through some acros here. Here's a Bill Murray Acropora Unicorn Bubble Bath, I think is what this one is called. This one's from ACI. Here's a maricultured green Acropora. I've had this one for over 6 months now, and it's doing really, really well. Here's a Voodoo Magic Acropora from Top Shelf Aquatics. Here's a Western Australia Trichophilia. The feeders are always out on this thing. I love it. Here's a hammer that I got from Salem. He says it's tried and true. It's been aquacultured for many, many years. A Splatter Fimbrophilia. Here's another one for my coral nerds out there, the Blue Ridge Coral. Really cool skeletal structure. If you break these in half or you frag them, the skeleton is actually blue. Here's that Cyphastria that we featured in the Meckley Awards at one of the Aquashellas. It's so close to spreading onto the rock, and I can't wait for it to do that. The Holy Grail Micromusa used to be very, very expensive, and now it's affordable. You see it in most vendors' tanks at any show. Pick one up, they grow well, and of course, have stunning coloration. There are definitely some corals that I left out, but no worries, because over time we'll get to all of them, and I'm gonna continually be adding corals as well. Huge shout out to Top Shelf Aquatics for sending me, I think the first box of coral that I got was from Top Shelf, and a lot of those are still in here or in the lagoon, one of the two. So after 11 months, I've finally brought the skimmer online. I was solely relying on the reef mat for the mechanical filtration, but needed to bring in the skimmer for some pH and also to remove a lot of that waste that has built up over time. The lights are the same. I'm still running the Red Sea 160s and really haven't messed with the schedule at all. I've also swapped out the Red Sea ATO for a Tunes Osmolator 3, partly because I wanted to test it, and the other part is that I just like the Tunes ATO products. They've stood the test of time in my mind, and this new product that they've had out for the past year or so is really good. So I threw that in there instead, and I want to know, Red Sea ATO users, how do you like it? Let me know in the comment section below. All the fish are doing really well. I really haven't added anything since the last update. My 2 spawning pair of clownfish still active, still spawning. In fact, they've got eggs right now. The DiGiardini tang, purple tang, Tomini tang, and then I've also got a blue-green chromis and a yellow assessor basslet. The hierarchy is set. I feel like they all get along pretty well together, and adding new fish just makes me a little bit nervous to upset the peace and harmony in this tank. I feel like all the tangs are doing their job with nuisance algae, and the tank looks great, the rock work looks great, so I don't know if I need any more. I think maybe I just deck this thing out in as much coral as I possibly can put in here. So it wouldn't be a proper update if I didn't share with you some of the challenges that I've had with this tank. The 2 that stick out of my mind right now are vermitid snails and cyanobacteria. Vermitid snails I've had in the past with almost every tank. You'll see them there hanging out on the rocks or whatever, but I've never had a lot of them. I've never had them proliferate in the tank. Well, they have started to do that, so I've been battling it in 2 ways. First, the manual way. So during a water change, I'll go through with bone cutters and just clip them off or crush the shell, give a little snack to the inverts. The other method, which is controversial, and I vividly remember Jake saying this in a podcast at one point, we don't know if bumblebee snails actually eat vermitid snails. Now, can I say that I have personally seen this happening? No, I cannot. But I can offer, it seems that the population has not increased in size. I think it's nice to have these guys in the tank anyway, if they're eating vermitid snails or not, because they are detritivores. They will feast on different things that are not algae in the tank. The other challenge I've been facing is cyanobacteria. And while the Red Sea Gyre pumps are great, they're great for flow. I have nothing bad to say about these pumps at all. Red cyanobacteria just kind of shows you where you need more flow. I'm learning I have some dead spots in the aquarium, and I'll address those by adding a couple wave makers here and there. While I think it'd be nice to get away with just 2 wave makers on both sides of the tank, I think I might need a little bit more flow. There is also the ChemiClean route, which I am trying not to take. And I know Salem would get on my case if I used ChemiClean, so we're gonna try all the other alternatives first. As far as dosing is concerned, the only thing that I've been dosing is Alpha Reef. So I got my hands on the powdered version, mixed that up, put it in the canister, and that's it. The ICP results will kind of tell me if we're dosing too much of one thing or not, and that may lead me down a different road. Does the one-size-fits-all approach work? We'll see, and we'll see that in the results. I think we've all had aquariums that we've loved. We've all had aquariums that we didn't like, and this aquarium for me is a 9 out of 10 in the first year. If I had to give it a rating, I would say 9 out of 10. I think one of the biggest pluses for this tank was starting off the bacterial microbiome with some established live sand from the ocean, from Tampa Bay saltwater. Sure, it came with a couple things that showed up on the aquabiomics test, one of those being uranema. That seems to be a big talking point whenever I meet people in public. But I will say none of the fish have displayed that at all. And I have a chromis, so if anybody's gonna get it, it's gonna be that guy. Everybody's healthy. I think that may have also contributed to the fact that I haven't had any nuisance algae problems. It could be that, or it could also be my awesome Tang gang who is constantly picking at the rocks. Overall, the equipment has been pretty good. I haven't really had any issues. Now, there's not a ton of equipment on this tank. I really just have, you know, the doser, the skimmer, and the reef mat. And that's pretty much it as far as mechanical filtration goes. I think if I can get a handle on the STNing of some of the Acropora frags, I feel like this tank will be dialed in pretty quickly. The ICP results are gonna tell me a lot. I think the aquabiomics tests results are gonna tell me a lot, and that'll be in the next update. So we'll share with you what the tests said and then what we are doing to remedy those potential issues. I hope you've enjoyed this 1-year update of the Red Sea 625 G2 Plus. If you have any questions, as always, just go ahead and leave those in the comment section below. Follow us on Reef Builders and make sure to subscribe as well. And I'll see you in the next one.